just joined us, we have a chair. I don't have a chair. I took it home and I left it there. So I have to bring it back. So I'm going to use this, but any chair will work. And it shows you can use a, ottoman or whatever. I've got a blanket. I've got 2 blocks. We're going to put you on this side if you don't mind. Yeah, right there. Yeah. And I'm going to have my chair on my mat, right? So you want to have your chair on the end of your mat. You're going to take your 2 blocks. So just, if you guys put your chairs on your mats, that would be great. And then we're going to do this. So we have our blanket kind of close to our chair. We've got our block on medium height, low height, and then we're going to create a wedge for our pelvis. And then we're going to bring our pelvis in nice and close. And you can come off this anytime you like. If you have a sensitive back, you can make more of a ramp for yourself. And we're going to put our legs onto the chair. We're going to make sure our backs are straight and that we're on that bolster. And then our arms are going to be beside us, palms facing up. And then just kind of rooting your arms and your shoulders down into the floor. And let's just start with a little bit of pointing and flexing our feet. And so usually we can slide our feet through the chair, but if not, just kind of figure it out. You can twist your chair. And so I'm looking to have the crease of my knee, so the very back of my knee on the edge of the chair is quite helpful for me to find that connection of the back of the leg. And then pointing your feet and drawing nice big slow circles. And then changing direction with the circles. And then stopping with the circles, flex your feet so the soles of the feet are flat. Keep the soles of the feet flat. See if you can curl your toes like you're holding onto a pencil. And then point your foot like a dancer, and then keeping your foot pointed, see if you can flip your toes back to you. Flex, curl, point, and flip. Flex, curl, point, and flip. And then flex to kind of hold. Keeping those feet nice and active. See if you can have your big toe mounds as far away from your knees as your baby toe mounds. Now let's bring our hands into an interlacing, right hand on top of left. We're going to pull our elbows apart. We're going to have our hands floating above our sternum. And we want to have our wrists and our elbows at equal height. Try not to lose your pinky connection, so you don't want those pinkies laying apart, but you want to keep them kind of imprinted. And as we pull the elbows apart, we're going to flip the palms away from us and flip the palms to us. We're going to look side to side to see if our elbows are at a shoulder's height and if our elbows are symmetrical. Some of us, our elbows are higher, some of us, they're lower, but eventually we want to have the wrists, the elbows, and the shoulders at equal height, with our hands kind of floating above our breastplate, our sternum. And then stopping with the palms facing away from you. Do your best not to fold at the fingers, but fold at the wrists as you inhale to straighten the arms. And then pull the elbows apart as you exhale to bend the arms. Flip the palms the other way. Inhale to straighten, folding at the wrists. Exhale to bend. Flip your palms again. Inhale to straighten. Exhale to bend. And just going back and forth with your palms as you continue to straighten and bend your arms. See if you can match the movement with your breath. Inhale to bring the arms up. Exhale to bring the arms down. Then think about your shins and your quads pushing into the chair. Think about your calves and your hamstrings moving away from the chair. The next time you straighten your arms, keep your arms straight. Relax your shoulders away from your ears. Doesn't matter if the palms are up or palms are down. We're going to do both sides. Try not to bend your elbows, but you don't have to go very far. Nice and slow, you're gonna start to bring your arms towards your ears, keeping your back rib cage pushing into the bolster. And just slide those arms to a comfortable place. Nice, big, beautiful breaths. Focus on your body from the inside. Focus on your breath. Let's go 5 more breaths here. And then when you're ready, nice inhale to bring the arms back up and over, back over the sternum, a little lower than the shoulders, bend your elbows, flip your palms to face your chest, and then once again, straighten your arms as much as you can, bending at the wrists, not the fingers. So the fingers are rock solid stable, and you're lifting the wrists up and out. Beautiful. Relax your shoulders, push your back rib cage down into the bolster, and see if you can squish the chair with your legs as you bring your arms to wherever they get to, where you can sustain them. You can always ease off if you need to, but let's do our best in this session to try and keep those elbows as straight as we can and sustain that elbow. When you arrive, focus on your body, focus on your breath. It's the season of the kidneys, so maybe thinking of finding the back floating ribs, lean them down into the bolster, and see if you can think about breathing into that particular space. And then allowing the breath to move from that space throughout the rest of your body. Just allowing yourself to be overwhelmed with gratitude for your kidneys, for your body, for your mind. And then taking your back ribs away from the kidneys, pushing them down into the bolster. Nice inhale to bring your arms back up and over, bend your elbows. And then let's finish off where we started, flipping the palms one way, flipping the palms the other way. And then flip the palms to you, let your arms come onto the floor, let your shoulders melt, relax those shoulders. Big, beautiful breaths. You want to push into your legs, give your pelvis a little wiggle if you can, lengthening away from your low back. And then with your knees and your feet at hips distance apart, you're going to slide your heels towards your butt. Taking your thighs to a 90-degree angle, right? So we want to have our knees right over our hips. It's going to give us a heck of a hip crease, all right? We want the knees and the ankle in a nice straight line so there's no external rotation, no internal rotation. And then push into your heels like you want to lift your pelvis, but you're not going to lift your pelvis. Just find that connection. And then take your hands onto your thighs, push really hard with your hands, But then think about the backs of the legs pushing back into your hands. And then without your back changing, you're going to straighten your leg. Inhale. Exhale to bring your heel down and kick with it. Inhale to straighten the opposite leg as much as you can without the thigh moving. So I want us to really focus on the quad not moving forward or back as we do these shin lifts. And the heel that's on the chair firmly pushes down. If you need to move the thighs away, you can, but see what you can do. And if it's super easy, the next time you do your left leg, you can do both legs together. We're going to do 10 more. We're going to flex as we lift. We're going to point as we lower. Flex, lift, point, lower. And then straighten just one leg or two legs, whatever you prefer. Take a few breaths here. And again, it can be a little more bent. One heel down's easier. And if you're doing one leg, swap it down. Let's go 5 more breaths. I love the bolsters because they force us to not imprint our low back. It's so humbling. Especially if we sit at a desk, right? Or we sit for a living, we tend to really have that habitual imprint. So those muscles that keep the lumbar curve weak, and when we're forcing that lumbar curve with the bolster, it can show us where we're skipping. And then nice and slow, when you're ready, bring those feet back down, slide those legs away from you, let the calves rest. Good. And then flex your feet, feet level. Push the shins down, push the legs down like you're gonna lift your pelvis, but then imagine the backs of the legs are equally lifting off the chair. Interlace your fingers, this time left hand on top of right. Pull your elbows apart so that they're at a shoulder's height. Good, and some of us, the elbows go high, so we have to think about the elbows pushing down into a table. Some of us, one elbow's higher than the other. Keep pulling those elbows apart. Use your fingers so that you don't slip the pinkies, and then go back and forth, flipping your palms, trying to keep nice neutral wrists if you can. Neutral neck. No wrinkles in the front of the throat. And then stop with the flipping, straighten at the elbow, bend at the wrist, not the fingers, and then bend at the elbow, straighten at the wrist. And then flip the palms, bend at the wrist, straighten at the elbow, and then straighten at the wrist, bend at the elbow, and then flip back and forth as you do this. Really leaning those back floating ribs down into the bolster, keeping that neutral pelvis, but also finding the rooting back into the back bottom ribs so that we don't get that kind of hunch in our mid-upper back. Now the next time you straighten your arms, you're going to straighten your arms to hold. Relax the shoulders so they're not climbing up to your ears. Push into the back ribs so you don't prop your front ribs, and then go real slow. Start to bring those arms towards your ears, taking your time. And then when those arms arrive by your ears, hold. Pull the elbows and the wrists apart. It can be less than, right? You can always back off. And if you want more, you're just going to slide those heels to you. You can straighten one leg, the other leg, or both legs. But we want to keep the back. And then just breathing here. Rest when you need to. Swap legs if you need to. Counting your breaths. We'll do 10 more breaths. If you're doing one leg, do 5 and 5. And when those 10 breaths are complete, bend your knees, feet come down. Nice inhale to bring your arms back up and over. Bend your elbows, hands over sternum, flip your palms. Straighten out those arms, bend at those wrists, not at those fingers. Try not to lose your pinky, that's home of the heart meridian. Before you bring your arms overhead, relax your shoulders away from the ears and root the back ribs down into the bolster, creating space for your kidneys. And then don't let the shoulders or the back change as you bring your arms towards your ears, lifting up and out into those breasts. And then same options with the legs, either heels down, both feet slightly floated, one leg straight, two legs straight, whatever you fancy. And then breathe. Big, beautiful breaths. Let's go 10 more breaths here. So if you're doing one side, 5 breaths, then the other side, 5 breaths. And then when you're ready, nice and slow, bend your knees, heels to the chair. Nice inhale to bring your arms back up and over. Bend your elbows, flip your palms away from you, flip your palms to you. Hi, Jenny. And then just release those arms beside you, palms facing up, let the shoulders relax, let the backs of the knees slide to the chair. Press into those feet. Big, beautiful breaths. If you want to pick up your pelvis and give it a little wiggle, that can be nice, and then lengthen it away from your low back as you come down. And so using this full moon as a time for reflection. What do you need to bring into your life? What do you need to get rid of? Are you keeping promises to yourself? And then taking your right ankle to your outer left knee, right? So you got a nice number 4 happening. Relax your shoulders. Now, put your hands on your hips. The habit here is to really twist right. So make sure that you kind of put a little bit of weight onto the left side of the pelvis. Energetically moving that right knee away from you. See if you can drag that left heel to you to get an assisted thread the needle. Sometimes with the chair, I like to move my left heel more in line with my tailbone and really dig my left heel into the chair. As I energetically, using my muscles, not my hands, lift my right knee away from me. Good. Let's interlace our fingers, right hand on top of left. Let's flip our palms, pulling our wrists and elbows apart, relax the shoulders. Keep your arms here at like a, stacking shoulder wrist position. And just bang out a couple shoulder push-ups where we move the humerus bones in and out of the shoulder sockets. And then find just right. So the arm bones aren't all the way out, they're not all the way in. And then just nice and slow, keeping space for the kidneys, bring your arms towards your ears. And just find a space that's comfortable to hold. Breathing here. Big, beautiful breaths. I call this a tell, right? So it tells you what you need to work on. So there's two things you want to look for. A, what part of your body you're feeling it in, and that's the part that you want to stretch this week. It can change from week to week, or you can be stuck with the same tight spot for years. Number two, it tells you whether or not your right side and your left side are fairly even. So say, for example, I feel my right hip on this side, and the other side I feel my left shoulder. Then the next time I come to class, I'm going to ask for spiral line. Take 5 more breaths here, really searching out our body, noticing what we're feeling, memorizing where the highest point of stretch is, and then seeing if you can follow that stretch from the highest point to the softest point. Push those back ribs into the bolster, away from the kidneys. And then nice inhale to bring your arms back up and over, bend your elbows, flip your palms, release, slide that left leg away from you, draw that right knee to you, uncross, open up the back of the knee, and then bring that leg back down. Find your breath. So again, watching that teeter-tottering, I always like to start with my hands on my hips, drag the left heel to you, hook the heel on the outside of the knee, slide that right heel to you as you work that left leg away from you. Feel like you're digging both heels into chairs. Feel like you're lifting both calves away from chairs. On the chair, I kind of sometimes like to move my right heel more in line with my pubic bone. And then I keep lifting up into the backs of the legs. Do your best not to twist left. Interlace your fingers, left hand on top of right, bend your elbows, flip your palms, push into all fingertips. Think of a mini micro bend in your knuckles to straighten out those fingers and straighten out your arms, but keep the bend in the wrists, not the fingers. Melt your shoulders away from your ears. Bang out a couple of those shoulder push-ups, moving your humerus bone in and out of your shoulder socket. And then find that place where the humerus bone feels just right. Not all the way out, not all the way in. Lean into the back floating ribs, and then nice and slow, let's transition those arms towards the ears. Today we're going to try and not change the elbow. So even if you don't go as far, no worries. Then when you arrive, find your breath and scan your body. Where's maximum sensation of stretch? Is it the same from side to side? Or do you need more spiral line work in your life?
What is that, spiral
Line?
I thought you said something about wine.
No.
Spiral line?
Well, you can remember it that way if you like. Yeah, you need twists. It's just lines that twist from one side of your body to the other. They're fascial lines, so if you feel the body real different, there's very specific poses that can balance that out. Let's just take a few more breaths here. Lots of twists, lots of core, lots of pelvis-y type work, because it passes through the pelvis, the spiral line. And then nice inhale to bring your arms back up and over. Bend your elbows, flip your palms, release those arms beside you. Slide that right leg away from you, draw that left knee to you, uncross, open up the back of the knee to flush it, and then bring that leg back down onto the chair. Take a few breaths here. Then from here, we're going to bring our hands beside us. We're going to lift straight up, and we're just going to kind of lift up our butt, and we're going to see if we can grab either the backs of the legs, or some of us are going to be able to grab the feet, right? And then you're just going to see if you can do a shin lift off that chair. I think we did it seated on the chair last week. So we're coming at it from a different angle. I know some people hate the chairs. I don't have them out all the time, but I think they're such a good prop. And you know why I love them is because everybody has a chair at home. Every single hotel room has a chair and 2 pillows, right? And you could set this up with a chair and 2 pillows, and your body would be so happy after a flight that you did that. Pull those arm bones in. Nice. Beautiful breaths. Focus on your body. Just keep thinking, I'm going to take my back of my leg away from the chair. I'm going to push the front of my leg to the chair, right? And if the back feels good, the arms are straight, you can let your head go back if that feels good. If it doesn't, or you're 60 plus, just keep it neutral, right? As we age, we have less calcium in our bones, and so bone on bone isn't optimum unless we do lots of handstands. You got this. You got 10 more breaths left in you. She's just sitting beside the treat lady. She shifted, hey, in the last, I'd say 5 months. She's become so demanding. I kind of love it, but I kind of just chill out, girl. And then chin comes up, press into those feet. See if you can take your hands away and hold it. Bring your legs down if you need to. Lift away from the chair so that back body is squeezing in, right? Lift it up. Beautiful, you guys. Nice active feet. Good. And then let those legs come down. Let your spine come down. Lift up your pelvis. Wiggle it away from the bolster and take a well-deserved rest. How's that for hip flexors, hey? It's so trendy. It's a fitness trend right now. I'm hip with my hip flexors. 10 big belly breaths. Plant a seed of intention with each and every one of those breaths. And then bending your knees, bring them to you. You can push your chair away if you like. Be mindful of your neighbors. And then you can just kind of roll off to the side, push yourself up. And then we're going to be on our knees in front of our chair. Right? So just kind of move your props to the side for a moment. And you can be on your knees in front of your chair. We're going to put our hands onto our chair and we're going to move ourselves back. So it's almost like we're doing like a puppy pose, but we're lifting our ribs up. So eventually our arms will be with our ears. Some of us it might be more like this, right? So I'm looking for a straight back. My palms are completely pushing down. Let's bring our fingers and our thumbs to squeeze. Our hands are wide, and then we can kind of take it back into more like a puppy, palms rooting, ears with arms. And then I want you to lift your back rib cage up. And if you've never seen where your kidneys are, just Google it. Oh my gosh, it's just so nice when I obsess about areas of the body. If you just Google where are my kidneys, you're going to get so many pictures, right? But it's your bottom floating ribs. They're kind of half in, half out. And the bottom floating ribs are interesting because they're lower on your side body. But I want you to lift your back floating ribs off your kidneys, and then I want you to take your sacrum away from those back ribs. And I want you to push into all 10 fingers. Now imagine you could lift your armpits up like there's helium balloons in those armpits. But the shoulders are keeping those helium balloons down. Right? So the armpits are being lifted by balloons, but the shoulders are like a net over those balloons. Keep on breathing. Now push into your palms. See if you can lift all 10 fingers without your palms lifting. And then bring all 10 fingers down. And if you can keep a karate chop finger, fabulous. Right? If you need to spread your fingers, that's fine too. We've got a hands workshop on Sunday, 9 till noon. If anybody needs help in that area, it's a good one. So palms down, and then you're going to lift all your fingers up. And then you're going to bring all your fingers down without your palms lifting. Good. You want to feel the base of the thumb and the index rooting. Rest when you need to rest, but not if you don't need to. And then lift all your fingers to hold. And just hold there. Now see if you can spread all 10 fingers, squeeze all 10 fingers. Spread all 10 fingers, squeeze all 10 fingers. If you need to take a regular old child's pose at any point, be my guest. And then spread your fingers. Tap just your index fingers. Lift them, tap just your middle fingers. Tap just your ring fingers, traction that back, lift those ribs. Tap just your pinky fingers. And then tap just your thumbs. Beautiful. And then lift from your back rib cage. Keeping it straight, but lift from your back rib cage like it's helium, right? And then drop from your booty, right? So pelvis goes back, back rib cage lifts you up. And just go up and down a couple times, bending and straightening your legs without your spine changing. Without your palms moving. Good. And then point your feet, any child's pose you fancy, as long as you don't feel your knees, and as long as your forehead is resting on something. Big, beautiful breaths. So Keith, we're gonna do, check me out, we're gonna do these poses. Are you able to stand on one foot?
Right foot, yeah. Right
Yeah,
foot.
so then let's just give you intense leg stretches, so you're getting the same
Okay.
benefit. I'm gonna grab you a strap.
Thanks.
So when we're on the right foot, you're doing the left leg, vice versa, right? We'll do a whole routine on one side, you do the whole routine with us. You just keep it straight, just do your regular intense leg stretches.
Yeah.
All right, so from here, we're gonna bring our hands onto our chairs. We're gonna come in as close as we need to, toes tucked. We're gonna push into our hands to lift our knees up and back into a similar leg position, but this time our knees are off the floor. And then we're gonna lift up the back ribs to come forward, and then we're gonna drop down onto our knees without our back changing. We're gonna lift our knees and take our pelvis back. Back doesn't change. It's easier without the length under your feet, right? And then you come forward and you drop down onto your knees. So what I'm looking for here is that the back and the shoulders don't change, that we're very, very symmetrical. Does anybody find it easy? You want to have your chair on your mat. And you don't have to straighten your legs, right? You want to keep that little bit of a lumbar curve. And this is just teaching us where to hold. Good. And the next time we bring our knees off the floor, we're going to bring our knees off the floor to hold. Beautiful. Walk your feet in if you need to. Get your ankles under your hips, a little bend in your knees, and find that same posture, but knees off the floor. Lift your back. Now find your fingertips. All 10 fingertips down. Lift your palms like your fingers are spiders. Now see if you can bang out some shoulder push-ups here. Take the humerus bone too far into the shoulder, too far out of the shoulder. And I could be here, right? I don't have to be all the way down. Everybody's looking pretty gosh very good with all the way down. But can we move the humerus bone into the shoulder and out of the shoulder? And how does that feel in your neck? Keep a neutral neck. Neck is neutral, so chin's a little tucked. Helium in the back ribs, helium in the skull. And then find the shoulders just right, arm bones just right, helium in your back ribs, don't press into your kidneys. Take one hand to one knee, other hand to the other knee. Now this is hard. Bend your knees. This is the weirdest hard thing in the world. Bend your knees more. Listen to the words, it's hard. Straighten your arms, but not your knees. Good. So this is magic, this is how we lift. Now find your helium in the back ribs. Take the back ribs off the kidneys without imprinting, right? If you can't shoulder check, that's not neutral. If you can shoulder check, that's neutral, right? But it's not an anterior tilt. Arm bones out just right. Good. Take your knees back, take your booty back, pull in your belly, find your connections. Then you can lift anything straight up using your legs. Gorgeous. Arms beside you, palms forward, find your breath. All right, so let's do some moon poses to honor the moon, right? Chandra, named after the moon. These ones are for you. We're so cheesy. I have a dog named Ravi, and then my husband and I got another dog who's like, let's call it Chandra. I was like, that's too cheesy, but of course we called her Chandra. Sunshine and moon. All right, so bolster on your chair. Grab onto your elbows, put your elbows on your bolster. Bang those arm bones in and out with a little bit of a bend in your knees. Without taking your shoulders back, take your hips back. So now traction your armpits forward, traction your hip flexors back. Bend your knees. Find that neutral spine we're obsessing about. If at any point your neck's like, OMG, give me a break, just bring your forehead down. Walk your feet to one another until the thighs touch. Now without moving the pelvis, you're going to bring your right leg up. You're going to keep that pelvis level. You're going to keep the symmetry in the shoulders. Nice straight spine. So we tend to kind of lose that left butt. So sit that left butt into a chair. Lengthen from left armpit to left booty. If it's too much, you bend both knees. Listen to your body. And then lift the right hip up like you're opening up a book. Without that left butt moving. And then bring the right hip down, leveling the pelvis like you're closing a book without the left thigh moving. So you're going to inhale to lift the right hip up as if the hip was on a table, and you take it off the table. The foot and the knee will follow and point out to the side. And then you're going to bring the knee and the hip back onto the table. Without the left thigh moving, without the low back shortening on that left side. So you have to really traction, moving the left armpit forward and the left hip back. Now the next time we lift that right hip, we're just going to hold. No change in the neck, no change into the shoulders, press into your feet. So this is stage 1, Ardha Chandrasana. It's a good butt burn, hey? And then bring your right hip, right knee down onto an imaginary table, bend both knees, both feet down. See if you can bring your forehead onto your arms. Relax your shoulders, bend your knees as much as you need to. Some of us can bring our head back and maybe let it hang a little bit. Right? But listen to your body. Straight back, knees as bent as they need to be. If you can straighten the legs, it's fine. But make sure you're not losing your back. We spent like 45 minutes getting straight backs. Let's not mess with it. Oh my God, these backs, you guys. Do your backs feel good? Because they look good. Very nice. Again, you want to rest your forehead, you rest your forehead. If you're like, you know what, I think I feel like I can go deeper, you kind of pull your arm bones out of your shoulders a little bit and you let your head come down and hang. Give me 10 breaths here. And then bend your knees as much as you can, right? Take your knees over your ankles, get your hands on your knees, straighten your arms but not your knees. Create that habit. Find that gorgeous back where you can shoulder check, but your arms are also working. Those arms are active and they're just right. Not too far out, not too far in. Then you can just release. Keep those arms active like you are lifting something. Up you come, little Tadasana. Big, beautiful breaths. Other side. Keep doing it. So we're going to come down, bend our knees, take our butt back. We're going to put our elbows onto the bolster. This time, left arm on top of right. We want the shoulders right over the elbows. We're going to soften our knees as much as we need to. We're going to think armpits forward, hips back. And then we're not going to let this rocking forward or back happen. We're going to stabilize. Lifting up off the kidneys, neutral neck. Bring those thighs to touch. A little softness in the knees. If the back is sensitive, bend your knees more. It's not so much hamstring, it won't pull into your low back. Then maybe you can lift that left leg. And so we start with the hip of a revolved moon, which means left knee, left hip is on a table. Left toe is pointing straight down. Now the trick is the right knee, right hip doesn't move, and you don't shorten in this right love handle. So you traction the outer right hip away from the armpit so that we don't shorten on that side, because it's hard to twist if we shorten. And then we lift the left hip, left knee off the table so it points to the side room. Without the pelvis moving forward and back or side to side, we learn how to open and close our hip. Really taking the ribs off the kidneys, right? Neutral spine twist. Non-neutral spine, not so much. You can rest your forehead if you want to. And the next time you take your hip and your knee off the table, take it off the table to hold. Really take that right hip away from your left and right armpit. Move it back. Right hip flexor back. Good. Give me 5 more breaths. Everybody's really stabilizing their knees and their armpits, and that's the most important part, so that's great. And then hip and knee down, soften your knee, drop that foot. You can walk back a little bit to open up the armpits. Always start with a bit of a bent knee. Take your booty back, feet at hips distance apart. Start with your forehead on your forearms, and then maybe you can lift your heels up and down a couple times. Bent knees. And then maybe you can bring your feet down and lift your toes up and down a couple times. And then maybe you can lift up into your back ribs, traction the pelvis away from the elbows, lift your armpits, but then push down with the shoulders. And if you wanted to, the head might find the space to hang and dangle. But it should be comfy, comfy, comfy. And then breathe into that space. It's a nice chest opener. Do you still hate the chair, Catherine?
It's not been as bad as it.
Right? It's the lunges that really are hard on a
Yeah,
chair.
I think it's that.
See, you just needed to know the right chair. It's not the chair's fault. Let's go 5 more breaths here. And then bending your knees a little bit, lifting up, maybe freeing up those arms. Take your butt back, take your knees back. So get those knees back, get that butt back. This is important. Bend the knees as much as you can. Hands on the knees, keep the knees and the butt back as you straighten your arms. So eventually when we bend our knees, we want to have a straight shin. And then we're going to ditch the arms and we're going to push down to come up, palms forward, shoulders back, find your breath. I'm going to go on your chair for a moment. As you're breathing, I'm going to show you semi-full pose. Make myself a little bit safe. Okay, so we've done all this, right? We get our shoulders over our elbows, we traction, 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 find our back, thighs touch, we lift and open. There's a strong habit to kind of do this, which you can see I can shorten on this side of my spine, and I kick my leg out. So I want to think about tractioning this hip away so that I stay straight, okay? And then if I've got it, maybe my hand comes up and I can facilitate a twist this way, which is epic. If I lean into my back ribs, I'm gonna get way more range, right? If I'm nailing that, then my arm could float up and I could find the full pose here, right? To come out, bend, pivot, drop, bam, right? Or bam. It's all about just memorizing how to transition, right? So that we're not all like, I'm gonna pick up a kid that just fell and ruined my back and my knees. You want me to say it again?
Yeah, I'm not, yeah.
Better?
Yeah.
That's good, it makes me balanced. All right, so the huge, right? Lift, open, right? My hand could go here too. My hand could go here. I could spin it around. I find my feet. I can extend that arm. Right, but you see this doesn't move, and I open my hip to come out. I close my hip, because this is a safer transition than, does that make sense? Some bodies can do it, but most can't, yet. Thank you for the loaner. So when you're ready, bolster. Good stuff, all right? And then when you're ready, knees and feet at hips distance apart, right elbow on top. You don't have to use the hands, right? You can just do what we just did, or you can do this. Hanging out like this is epic. Lift into your ribs, take the booty back. This is great during labor. If anyone having babies soon, just a little bit of this in labor. Oh my God. Get that baby off you. All right, bring those thighs in to touch. Good. Lift that right leg up. Sorry, left leg up, whatever leg. Either leg. I'm doing right leg down, left leg up. And then maybe I'm going to open that hip a bit more. I can take my hand onto the bolster, which is kind of an in-between. Right? And then I just think outer thigh squeezing in, inner thigh opening, back of the leg, front of the leg, and maybe I bring that arm up. Maybe I grab the chair. Right? But I want to make sure, remember that shortening into the pelvis? So if my leg is going like this, that's not what I'm looking for. Beautiful. So, two things. Bend, and then you want to bring, see how the shin's not at a 90? So your foot should be more here. Okay. Yeah. There you go. So you want to stack the joints, you want to take the pelvis back and then knee forward. Knee forward. There you go. So you see how that shin's at a 90? Do you see it? I know. Oh no, it's great. They're great. It's just next step, right? Each step preparation for next. And when that feels done, you bring your gaze down, you bring your hand down, you bring your hip down, and then you step it down. And you can take a rest, or you can go right into the other side if you like. Right? So elbows down, neutral neck, find your back, bring your thighs to touch. This time lift the opposite leg, open the opposite hip. So here's how we got to take the left hip away from the armpits. I find right armpit away from left hip flexor very helpful as I lift that hip up to not shorten. So I don't go into a back bend on my left handle. Then maybe my hand comes to the bolster and I get a little more space. Maybe my hand takes that chair and I get the rotation. When I think I'm stuck, I push my ribs off my kidneys, and that's how I go deeper. Lift the inside line of the leg. There we go. It's like the inner groin, inner knee, inner ankle lifts. Very nice. Maybe you extend the arm. For a lovely moon pose. Good work, everyone. When you're done and those sides are even, remember how you transition. First the hand, then the gaze, then the hip, then the foot. Find your rest. And just 5 breaths in your rest. And then bringing yourself up, bend your knees, hands onto those knees, straight arms, bent leg, take your knees and butt back, pull in your belly, find a neutral spine, get a new shoulder check, and then ditch the hands, up you come. Beautiful. Hands on the hips, elbow, let's take a rest. Palms forward, shoulders relaxed, close your eyes, and breathe. So as you're resting, let's open our eyes and let's check it out. So when we come into these poses, right, what we don't want to do is open the hip like we just did, right? We want to keep the hip closed, like the pelvis closed, and open from the groin, right? So as opposed to this, right, we're going to keep the pelvis level and we're going to open here, okay? Same goes if we take the foot or the knee. We're going to straighten, and as we open the leg out, it's like the left pelvis, left outer hip pushes forward so that I'm not twisting this way. We have different hip movements, different poses, so we strengthen in different ways. That's why there's different poses, right? If we do this pose, in this pose, it's not as effective. Make sense? If not, it doesn't matter. We're going to do it that way anyway. Feet together, thighs together, hands on the hips, elbows back. Pull your belly in, flesh your butt down, middle of booty forward, okay? Find those legs. We've obsessed about the legs for a reason. Bend both knees generously. Pick up your right heel. Bring that right leg up. Now, this is a balance pose, right? So if you're not balancing, go back to where you can balance. Maybe you can take your hand to your knee, right? Maybe the left hand comes around to the pelvis. Maybe you can open that knee up. And you can do it without the hand if that's easier, right? You can always open your knee up here, but I don't want you to twist that pelvis. Think about your pelvis being at a wall. Fix your gaze on one point on the horizon. Hopefully you've not got a moving friend there. Now traction, you can see how you get this shortening. Traction this part away from your armpit to create space in that low back so you can go a little bit deeper if you want to. Leg comes back to center, release, thighs touching, hands on the hips, fix your gaze, bend the knees, pick up your left heel, pull in your belly, flesh your butt down, take your ribs off your kidneys, right? Balance is about going back, right? Because otherwise it's like this and this. And nobody's balancing with their head this way. Lift up the left heel, eyes on the horizon, pull that belly back, lift up that left leg. If it's there, grab the knee. Take the opposite hand to the pelvis and think about a little hand pushing that outer hip pelvis forward. Think about tractioning that hip flexor away from the armpit. Open the inside of the leg. So just like we were lifting our leg up in the previous pose, find that same lift in both inner legs. Right? So both legs are kind of open up as much as they're trying to close. Active, active feet. And then bring it in, release, take a little breath. Beautiful breaths. Let's see what's on the wall. This low back stuff is the difference between gymnastics, cheerleading, and yoga. Did everyone see the UVic cheerleaders just kicked ass in America? Does anyone know that? They like won, and that is such a big deal. That's what, I just can't even believe it. Thighs touch, hands on the, I'm not a cheerleader, but I was impressed. Hands on hips, elbows back, pull in your belly, flesh your butt down, middle of butt forward, Pick up your right heel, soften that left knee, bring it up. So you can take the knee, or if you're feeling like it, you can take the foot, right? Or you can take the hamstring, which is a nice in between. But really making an effort not to twist the pelvis, kick it out. Try not to twist the pelvis as you bring the leg around. So keep intense leg stretches whenever you like.
Yeah.
I want no pain.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Good. Now, really think, I'm going to traction the sort of love handle away from the armpit and just see where that takes me. Right? Fixing your gaze. Traction to release. Traction to release. It's just tricks, right? It's like magic. It's like a good recipe makes a different cake than a shitty recipe. 5 more breaths. Pelvis forward. Lift up into the back of the leg. Open the inside of the book. Close the outside of the book of the leg. Bring the knee forward and release. Little break. Thighs touch, hands on hips, elbows back. Zip your belly, samana bayu. Flesh of butt down, middle of butt forward, apana bayu. Pick up your left foot. Make sure there's a bend in that right knee. Pick up that left leg. So again, knee, nothing, hamstring, foot. But you're going to go back to a nice straight spine. And then you just kick. The shin lift, and then you wait. Right? Traction, traction, traction. Hip away from armpit. And then maybe you can start to bring it out without the pelvis moving. Pelvis stays level, ribs stay back. So you've got this neutral spine. You get a little chunky here, so you got to traction the love handle to bring it up. As if there was a big belt here pulling your hip down. Nice. Everybody's breathing. So when life's crazy, I always do balance. Because it's hard and you can't think of the 652 million things you need to do. Leg comes back in, release.
You push your hip
Breathe.
down, the hip, you got the leg up that side.
So your hip on that side, you want to think of like a strap
On this
holding
side.
it down. Yeah. So what happens usually is this hip lifts, which is anatomically fine if your body can handle it, but most bodies can't, which is why most cheerleaders end up in chiro, back traction. Palms forward, show a gymnast. You've got a bunch of kids with lots of PT bills. And just breathe. And I'm always a big fan of 3 times lucky, right? If you're doing something new, do it 3 times, you'll learn something, right? So let's go for it. I'll do full pose just for fun because I know there's people at home that are trying to learn it, but just get off the bus, okay? Thighs touch, hands on your hips, elbows back, zippity zip, 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 right? So this solid pelvis versus this back, right? God, I'm saying right so much. Beats bingo.
I like being.
I know, I'll bring bingo back. Lift up your right heel. There was a point in time where I'd say bingo 15 times in class and I didn't even know I was doing it. And then you'd make a joke and then I'm like, oh my God, I do. Now he regrets ever making the joke because now they can't make fun of me behind my back anymore. And then lift it up. You can grab the hamstring, which is a great option. You can grab the knee. You can push into the thigh, which helps you to get this tractioning I'm talking about. You could grab the foot with 2 hands. You could extend, right? So you could hold with 2 hands here, or you could hold with 2 hands here. And then you want to find that neutral back. And then really nice and slow, you bring it up. And it's weird because you think neutral rotation, but then eventually you have to think of internal rotation to get it all the way up, right? And then eventually arm comes through, or not. Either is good, right? This is good. This is good. This is good. And release. Slow down your heart rate. Slow down your breath. Little softness in those knees. Feet wide so the pelvis can release. And cheerleaders do that pose on someone's hand on the top of a pyramid. Crazy athletes. And they just go fly. They're crazy. All right, thighs touch, hands on hips, elbows back. Pull in your belly. Pick up your left heel. Sit that booty down. So this is the hip you're going to traction. As that leg lifts, this is the habit, right? So I get this crunching into my love handle. So I want to think I'm going to traction that hip down away from the armpit. I can grab here, here, right? I can take the foot. I can extend. And then you just have to wait for everything to release. And then you just kind of think, I'm going to take my back of my leg off the chair and the front of my leg to the chair. That's the thing, right? Back of the leg off the chair, stop. Front of the leg to the chair. Back of the leg off, front of the leg to, the whole time not changing the back, right? So it's literally just a pushing more. And then it's a release. Internal rotation at the very end. Or whatever, right? Whatever's working. And release. Big, beautiful breaths. Then we're going to do a little squat. So we're going to take our knees out, our feet out, hands on the knees, butt back, so all those same rules apply. Chair's a nice way to squat. You can use your hands to kind of slide forward. But in a squat, you want your knees back. So you never want your knees over your toes. You want your knees back. So it's those same concepts. So eventually you can go down and up a little bit, and there's very little movement in the knees. I'm just going, and you can be going down and up here. Right, wherever you're going down and up is great. If you are challenged with squats, remember what we said at New Year's resolution, buy a squatting potty. And if you haven't, just do it. It's like $20 or something crazy. So cheap, and yet so good. And then just come down to where you can hang out for 10 breaths. You don't want to feel your knees. You want to take those knees and butts back. And then press into the heels and come up. Beautiful. Hands on the knees, butt back. And then walk it out like a bear, lifting up into your back ribs, knees on the floor. Let's take our bolster and our 2 blocks. And we're going to stack our 2 blocks, and then we're going to put our bolster on top of our 2 blocks. We're going to touch our toes, we're going to take our knees wide, and we're going to pull those bolsters into our bellies. I like to hold the top of the bolster and really pull it into my belly as I come down and turn to look over my right shoulder. And then I can move my elbows a little forward or a little back, just depending on what feels right for my neck. Again, I love this. Remember how we did the beginning pose on a bolster? It made us straight. This is also going to make us straight in our child's pose. And then think about taking your feet down into the floor as if you were doing a push down, kind of flutter kick at the same time. We never want to feel our knees. So if you feel your knees, come out of the pose. If looking off to one side is too intense, you can stack your hands and let your forehead rest on your hands. And then big inhales, big exhales for this well-deserved rest. add a little mantra. And so remembering it's reflection time. So generally we make a mantra or commit to a mantra on the new moon. Full moon, we think, oh gosh, should I keep that promise to myself? Maybe you can add something to help you keep the promise to yourself. And then just visualize yourself doing that little thing. So I'm trying to be on my phone a little bit less. So this month I'm going to put my phone not beside my bed. So then I find a little mantra to remind myself of that. Without using a negative word. Little mantra, little visual, little breath. Slow down your heart rate by slowing down your breath. Inhale to feel the ribs lifting up off the kidneys. Exhale to feel the ribs sinking down towards the kidneys. Particularly finding that lower part of your back we've been working with. I guess it's mid-back, lower ribs. Take 5 more breaths on this side. If we need to come into tabletop and open up the backs of the knees before turning our gaze the other way, then do so. Remember, we never want to feel our knees. Otherwise, you can just kind of lift your head, turn the gaze the other way, and continue with your mantra, continue with your breath. For me, because I'm so addicted to my phone, I don't even use the word phone. I have great boundaries at bedtime. But you can also bite off too much, right? At one point I'm like, I'm just gonna take Facebook and Instagram off my phone, and then my business effort. So there's gotta be a balance, You don't have to keep promises if they're not good promises. Sometimes, the promise is, I will brush my teeth or brush my hair, right? Everyone's ever had a newborn. I will make it through this class, is I think my husband's mantra for every single class. Take 5 more big, beautiful breaths, just like that. When those 5 breaths are complete, hands underneath the shoulders, nice inhale to push yourself up. Coming through tabletop position, and just spend a little bit of time opening up your knees. And I'm going to show you 2 different options for Shavasana. That might be a little different, okay? So there seems to be like a coughing season happening. So if you know that you're kind of just a little bit coughy, then you could do this, right? And you could do Shavasana. I've got my chair here, but you get the drill, right? Or you can even do your legs up, which is a nice option. After that practice, legs up the wall would be really nice. So if you like legs up the wall and it's restful for you, then get your butt right to the wall, roll off, feet on the wall. Make sure you're nice and straight. After that practice, a bolster underneath your pelvis would be so lovely, and then legs up the wall. Right, and your legs would be the wall. I'm doing it without a wall, but you get the drill, right? If you need to come out, you just hug your legs or bend your knees at any point, right? You don't want it to be uncomfortable. But you want to get in first, so check me out, Alyssa. Come in, lift the pelvis, bring it under, and then go up, and then to come out, feet down, cushion of the wall, legs up.
How short are they? I thought you noticed that one. I wonder if you should have rubbed that in. I was saying, you could go before.
Guys at home, I'm gonna ditch the light, but we're still gonna be here after Shavasana.
Even if I height or short.
You're just letting the whole body relax. And then really slowly, really gently, just start to deepen your breath. And then if your legs are up the wall, just bend your knees, give them a hug. Sometimes keeping the height under the pelvis and just rocking a little bit is nice, or just hugging those legs in is really nice. When you feel like the hamstrings in the back has released, then you push your feet into the wall to lift up your pelvis, remove the bolster, come down onto a flat back, push yourself away from the wall, roll off to the side, and push yourself up. And we're gonna make our way into a comfortable seated position, so something that feels really good in your body. We're gonna end with a nice big group Om before we dedicate the merit of our practice. Hands coming into Namaskara. And just really think I'm gonna lean into those back ribs here. I'm gonna find a nice lumbar curve. Whatever pose you're doing, you wanna try and find that. You wanna try and find that driving your car, sitting at your desk. May we use this class to be mindful that this too shall pass. Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your practice. Namaste. Thank you. Bye, Radiant Zoom Land. So I booked the Bordeaux house. It's going to be last, not this spring, but next spring. Last week of May, and like the first couple days of June. It's a Bordeaux yoga retreat. Just saying. I'm not
start
selling
teaching
it
in
yet. Right? Well, Stephen can help me. My French is not good. Blankets are right there. Save the date. I'll put it in our next newsletter. I got the coolest house. It was in an Architectural Digest magazine. Right? Like, what a dream.